Hello again, and welcome to a special mod episode of Build the Back to the Future DeLorean. Today we're going to be installing the power conversion mod from Modz. This is a DC power adapter replacing the battery so that this will run off wall power. I also got their custom battery cover so that I don't have to modify and replace it. I think this looks much better. Basically, the battery compartment on the DeLorean is the gas can. And because of that, and it's got a battery door on it, you don't want to just remove it because it will be a hollow spot, and even if you leave it there and you modify it to support this power adapter, you have a cutout for the battery. So I like this. It's painted, 3D printed. You can see a little bit of grain on it, but it's pretty good. And the big point is it has the spot for the power adapter. Now, the power adapter itself comes in this big fancy box, but ultimately, that's the real piece there. That's the wiring that goes inside. It's just a screw-on DC adapter. You get an extension cable, and you get a power switch. That's nice. I'm probably just gonna hook this up to my Alexa type devices and use that to switch it on and off, but that's fine. And a brick, and it's just a DC power brick. Comes with a lot of different international adapters. I, of course, just need typical US plug, but you got your various, UK, I think Australia or Asia, and then Europe. So you get pieces. I don't need most of them. I'm going to put most of them back. Comes in a very nice box, as you can see. And even now, I don't need most of this stuff out. We'll just put it off to the side. So before I bring the car in, we've got a little bit of prep work, which is, step 0, not even really necessary at this stage. It's just to put the DC adapter together. So now it's got the plug I need. The actual step 1 is to take the wiring and the nut and get this installed in this battery cover. So you got to take all your wires. Now they did design this so that you can have a lot more power. I'm probably just going to need the one, but they give you 2 short leads for stuff in the front, 3 long leads for the back. One of those goes to the standard circuit board. So you feed all that through from the outside. Start off with the long cables, short cables through, and then when you're there, that just snugs up to the back. Got to do the same thing with the washer. They give you not a washer, a very thin nut. This is basically a panel mount nut. You feed your cables through it. Pretty much got to do one connector at a time. All the way down to the base. And then screw it on. Now, if you were doing this surface mount with with your standard battery door, from here, you'd want to hold it on the front and tighten it down on the back. Now, I can't do that because it's like flush on the front, which is nice. So what I'm going to have to do is hold the plug from one side and tighten the washer nut from the other. You don't need to over tighten this. Snug it up. Don't want to crack anything, don't want to scratch anything. So that is the actual assembly of this. Now the rest of this is putting it in the car, so I'm going to bring that on over. Okay, so with the car here, the power cord is this guy with the plus and the minus. And it's got its own little path that it traces. It's got 3 cable clips that hold it in place, and it's routed under one other cable. It's probably going to get routed over that cable when I'm replacing it here. So step 1, we're going to free up this cable. I'm being very careful not to completely unscrew these because I hate these cable clips. Okay, now we're just going to extract this cable. Okay, and I'm gonna just temporarily retighten these a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna go to the underside of the car. And from underneath here, we're gonna take off the battery compartment. So I'm gonna pop the door. Wow. No, I'm just gonna unscrew the whole thing. That door doesn't want to come off anyway. I may replace these screws too. I gotta look up what which screw they were. I'm sure I have plenty of extra. Okay, so that's the battery door removed. Really don't need this anymore. I'm just gonna put it in my spare parts bin. Also have the battery compartment, the battery holder in the battery compartment. Okay, the switch comes out, and this whole cable slides out. So, again, really don't need this piece at all anymore. So this is also going to go off into my spare parts bucket, and I actually have an entire extra set of this, which is why I know I have plenty of screws. I just got to figure out which ones they are. That's all removed. Next up, we're going to thread these back through that same opening. This is probably the trickiest part. I'm actually going to rotate this all the way around if I can. Well, I gotta get my other tools again. Okay, so I've gone ahead and switched the direction on that cable. Now we're gonna feed these through. Okay, that was probably the hardest part of this whole thing. Maybe I was better off with that facing backwards. Nope, nope, I got it. Okay, so it's going to go on like that. Gets 2 longer screws in the front, and the 4 shorter screws make up the rest of it. Going to get a little bit of this machine oil in. And it did not eat the pad. It did make it bubble up, so that was no good. But as it dried out, it unbubbled, so it's fine. I'm actually going to use the cap of a film canister because it's got a nice little well in it. And that way the film canister will actually become the cap for the rest of this. And I won't spill it everywhere, hopefully. It really does not want to go together here. It's like the hole is just in a terrible spot for where that switch mount was. Alright, we got a screw. That should help make the rest of it go in. Just trying to get a second screw to keep everything in place. Now with 2, maybe this will finish going together. Or maybe the whole thing will break. Looks like we're going for the whole thing's gonna break. Okay, so that is the panel on the bottom. I may have to go back and try to cut out the switch block. It's really not fitting well. I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I did go back and break that switch piece out. I nibbled it out in little pieces. That's what all this stuff is here. Quite a few of them went across the room. I probably should have worn eye protection for that, but alas, I did not. This fits much better now. The location of the lug is just such that it's right on top where that switch used to be, and it just does not work with the switch mounting point in there. So now that all of this is through, we got our 2 short leads and our 3 leads on the long line. And again, if you're doing any other mods, you can use these up front. You can use the extra ones on the back to power the Christmas tree, the flux capacitor, anything else you might be modding, because this is like a 6 volt, I think, DC supply. The batteries, there's 3 of them, 1.5 volts each for, of course, 4.5 volts. And this output, according to the box, is 5 volts, 3 amps, 15 watt total, of course, because you can multiply 5 by 3. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're just going to clean up the route of this cable. The people who make this suggested that just you tape it back in if you didn't want to use these. I'm going to go ahead and use these clips again, as much as I hate them, because they're already here. Now these wires are also somewhat heavier gauge than the stock ones, so these clips fit a little differently. But yeah, there we go, power cords. So when it comes time to put the rest of it on there, we've got a little bit better power supply. And that is the Model Modz DeLorean Power Mod, along with the battery cover. So if you like what you see, you can check out those other playlists for the rest of the DeLorean build and for the other mods I've done. You can also click on that cat to subscribe if you want to get updates when new videos post. We do DeLoreans typically on Saturdays and Ecto 1s on Wednesdays. Have a good one, guys.